Welcome back, guys, and happy December. Hoping all of you guys survived the side bends this week. Actually, I'm not sure which one would have been worse, the side bends or the 15s. I know I've definitely been feeling both of those here lately. You guys will have more of those to do this coming week. 15s will be out for the week, so I'll go over that in just a little bit more detail here coming up pretty quick. But one of the first things is, again, always, as usual, make sure you at least glance at, make sure you at least glance through the warm-up section every now and then. I will progress some of those movements up. For example, the wrist push-ups, especially any of them that have a version on, version 1, 2, version 1, version 2, or version 3, and so on. Wrist push-ups, we've been doing version 1 for a really long time. That's the one where you're on the floor here and just using one arm. We're going to move on to the next version, which is going to be both arms at the same time. So just progressing up from that first version, you're going to get some good just movement in your wrist from either version that you're doing. So if you need to stick with the other one, that's okay. But what we're trying to do, whether you're going single or whether you're going double, is to add more load to that and hopefully eventually go down into a push-up, which is definitely pretty painful, but definitely something that you can work into and progress to. And obviously that just indicates quite a bit more wrist strength and flexibility and health. So pay attention to that, and I'll remind you if we get to the point to where we're going to progress up from there. Back to the squats, like I mentioned, obviously you did the 2 sets of 15 at the end of this past week. I know that's a tough little combo there. Hopefully you guys did okay with it. You will see it a couple more times. Again, let's see, you did it towards the end of last week, so you'll see it again at the beginning of not this coming week, but the following week. So this week, what we're going to do, as you'll see in the program, day 1 of the squats is going to be some front squats. So take this opportunity, like you had last week, you had an opportunity to go up to a decent percentage in the front squat. You're going to have another one this week, but also we're going to mix it with some lighter front squats with straps. So take the opportunity to work your front rack mobility a little bit, front rack position, and as those come back around through this squat phase, we'll try to progress up in those just like we normally do in everything else. The squats, back to the back squat towards the end of this coming week, and those squats are going to be sets of 5 instead of sets of 15. But what I'm trying to do with those is just get you guys a feel of a little bit more weight than you will be using for the 15s in the following week. So not trying to go heavy, not trying to max it with a set of 5, but I want you to kind of overload that a little bit, and that's going to be indicated in the percentages. I think the top weight is our range is 105% to 115% of the weight you used for 15 the previous week. So pay attention to those numbers, those details, and you'll get what we want you to get out of that portion of the program. Clean deadlifts. I know the percentages that are indicated there. Last week was 75%. This week going to be 80% for 3 sets of 8, just like you did 3 sets of 8 last week. And I know that's a pretty light, deadlift for a lot of you guys, or even clean deadlift. But as usual, that it's just about strengthening those positions and really working on perfection. If you're moving 3 sets of 8 perfectly at a controlled pace, it doesn't matter what weight you have on there, even if it's just a bar, even if it's just a PVC, you're going to benefit a lot from that movement-wise. So be patient with the load. As always, we'll progress you up in weight through the coming weeks. So stick to that 80%. Be patient there, and we'll get through it. And again, you'll get more out of it. So the last thing that I want to go over for this week is one of the auxiliary movements that you guys have been doing, a kettlebell swing. It's a basic kettlebell swing, or a Russian kettlebell swing. And so, what I want out of a Russian kettlebell swing, just for weightlifting, just like for any other movement that you guys do, either in this program or outside of this program, if you're doing other things, or if you have done other movements, is we want everything to work together as much as possible. Okay, so I want you to think about taking the opportunity with this kettlebell swing or with any other exercise that you're doing to offset any any imbalances that you may have, any mobility issues that you may have, any faults that you may have, any bad habits, anything like that that we're trying to overcome inside of your Olympic lift specifically. Obviously this is a weightlifting program, but inside of your Olympic lift specifically, let's take this opportunity to make sure that we're paying attention to how you're moving, how you're setting up, so we can work to offset that. Or for any of you that in any given movement that we're not really using it to offset anything, that we're reinforcing those good movements, those good positions, those good patterns that we're working on, or that we're already doing inside of the Olympic lift. So one of the things that's very common in a kettlebell swing, whether it's Russian or American, going over your head, is just going to your heels too much, or curling those toes up. And I've talked a lot about that inside of all the programs that I've done, and you know, most all the demo exercises that you guys see on video. It probably says something about in writing or verbally about being on the whole foot. So I definitely want you to think about that. And one of the things that's going to help you with that, we do a lot of stuff obviously with our shoes off, and so definitely when you're doing kettlebell swings, when you can, where you can, inside of this program specifically, go ahead and take those shoes off, and I'm going to take mine off here in a second too, to make sure that I'm demoing this correctly. But that's the major thing that I want you to pay attention to, because if you're used to lifting those toes in the middle of your lift, and you're doing it in the kettlebell swing, and maybe you don't realize it already, but just make sure you examine that and pay attention to it, and let's make that change, okay? So one other thing in the kettlebell swing setup, I see a lot of people with their feet really wide and turned out, and there's no right or wrong answer here. That's not necessarily wrong for a kettlebell swing, but there's no rule that says that you have to do it this way, that you can't do it differently. Again, if your goals are the Olympic lifts, being the best you can in the snatch and clean and jerk, let's think about bringing those feet in just a little bit. Obviously, you're swinging a bell between your legs, so you're going to have them out to a certain width. Just make sure that you're not going inside of your foot, outside of the outside of your shoulder, so it can be in line or slightly inside of that. And especially for you guys that have a trouble, or that your feet kind of turn out when you squat, and you're basically turned out in everything that you do. And I promise you that I'm working hard with you guys to try to make that change. Definitely go ahead and exaggerate those feet straight, and it's not going to hurt all of you guys to go ahead and exaggerate those feet straight. Okay, so setup is one, and then again, making sure that your feet are glued to the floor, the entire foot, toes gripped to the floor through the downward swing and the upward swing. Okay, another thing to pay attention to is, again, it's not wrong to do kettlebell swings with your arms bent, but one of the things about that is it's a muscle position, and especially if you already have an arm bend inside of your Olympic lifts, and this is a great opportunity to go ahead and lock those elbows out. Is it more efficient to bend your arms when you're doing it overhead and then bringing it back down? Yeah, I would say that it probably is, but again, we're using these just for general purposes, and let's take it even further than general and work on benefits for the Olympic lift. So straight arms while putting power into the kettlebell will carry over better to that barbell. So keeping those arms straight. Other than that, just the basic timing of the kettlebell swing. I see a lot of people coming down and their arms are coming up. They're bringing their arms up before their hips extend, and then they're bringing their hips down before the kettlebell comes back down. We need you to finish with the hips, right? Push with the hips, and let the kettlebell fall back down and catch it with your hips here. What we want to look out for as well is that you're not bending over too far, that you're not basically catching this with completely straight legs. You're not quite enough bend. We want to use a good combination, and again, for carryover to the Olympic lifts, we want to make sure that you're catching just very short and quick. Short and quick, right? That's what we want to carry over. So we're going to look like this. Again, I know I went over a lot of little details there, but the biggest thing that you can do is position your feet and focus on keeping them gripped to the floor. And that may be enough of a change for you right now. If you know that you need to make a lot of changes, focus on that one thing. Get going. You're going to be doing plenty of reps of kettlebell swings over the next couple weeks throughout this whole program. So make that change, and then we can progress forward from there. But here's what we're looking for. Toes down. Toes down. Short and quick. Arms straight. And other than that, guys, we'll see you next week.